Welcome back to our currently unnamed Drafting Eternal podcast. This is um, our second attempt at this. We recorded one yesterday and it did not go well due to an error on my part, technically. So, but yeah, this is Micah. I'm from Jank Junction, and we are
And this
gonna.
is Joe Quick. I'm from the Reddit and Discord mod team, and I am very good at pretending I'm very good at draft.
You're good at pretending that you're good at draft.
No,
Uh,
I'm good at pretending that I am good at draft.
okay, gotcha. You're good at the pretending. I see. So we both consider ourselves to be pretty decent limited card game players. Let's get to it.
Now we have a little list of topics here. So first thing we're gonna do is we gotta crack two Omens of the Past packs. We're gonna treat both of these packs as pack one pick ones. We're just gonna take a look at them, gonna talk a bit over them, and explain what and why we would take.
All right, so this first pack here, we're just gonna go ahead and read through the commons and the uncommons, and then finally talk about our rare or legendary, and then talk about which one we think is the correct pack one pick here. So our first common is an Umbran Thirster. It's a 5 power single justice unit. It's a 2/4 that has life force. When you gain life or health, Umbran Thirster gets +1 power in flying. Then we have Inspire Obedience. It is a 7 Shadow spell that says kill all enemy units. Your units get +1 power this turn.
Kill an enemy unit,
Kill
not
an
all.
enemy unit. Sorry, kill an enemy
It's
unit.
not that good. Not that good, unfortunately.
And then we have Extract, the 3 power spell, double shadow influence requirement. It has life steal and deal 3 damage. Look at the top card of your deck. You may put it on the bottom.
So to be called Scout.
Yep. And next we have Dragon Breath. It's a 2 power spell, single primal influence requirement. Mentor, the student deals its power and damage to an enemy unit. Then we have next up is a weapon. It's a 4 power single justice 2/3 spiked buckler. Spiked buckler.
Honestly, I think the Spike Buckler is not as bad as a lot of people make it look like. It is definitely playable if you are on the go tall plan, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think the if you put that on a unit that already has 3 toughness, then all of a sudden you've got a 6 toughness unit, and those seem to be pretty solid.
Yeah.
Then we've got Stormcrasher. It's probably our first like card that would be okay or happy to pack one, pick one. It's a 3 power single primal influence unit, the 2/2 flyer. It has ultimate pay 6 to give Stormcrasher +2/+2. Then
Flyers are especially good in this meta.
yeah, then we have a Ridgeline Watcher. It's a 4 power single primal influence 3/3 with Aegis. And our last common is Journeyman Armorer. It is a 3 power Praxis Influence 2/2 unit with Warp. And when you summon it, you get to play a 1/1 weapon on another one of your own units.
Very solid card.
Yep, I'm a big fan. Our first uncommon is Valkyrie Linebreaker. It's an 8 power single justice influence 5/6 flying unit. With Mentor, you gain armor equal to the student's health.
The card that I have never seen played, neither have I played.
Right. Like I we talked yesterday. I've played this, but usually only if I don't have any finishers whatsoever. If I've just sort of my draft has gone completely off the rails, then I will play a one of Linebreaker.
No, I mean it is playable because a 5/6 is just a very good amount of stats, especially flying. But the thing is that like you said yesterday, the difference between 7 and 8 mana is just very big.
Right. Yep. And our next uncommon is a little guy. It's a 1 power single fire influence 1/1 fire main cub. Summon, deal 1 damage to an enemy unit.
A little Simba on fire.
Yep, pretty great art, but not a very amazing card. Although ping effects are pretty good and limited typically.
It depends all on the meta. If the meta has a lot of X ones, yeah, it can definitely be very good.
Right. Although if I was gonna have a pinging unit, I'd rather have a cannon bearer for sure.
No, definitely.
And our last uncommon, and definitely so far the very first, my first pick at least, is Plated Goliath, a 6 power double time influence 7/5 unit with overwhelm and warp.
I would definitely agree with this as a first pick. Just very solid unit. Very nice pick for starting getting into time.
Yep, I like to be in time anyway, and this is one of the better 6 drops in that faction. So, all right, and our rare is actually a legendary. It is Spirit of Resistance, a 12 power 10/10 unit with summon, kill all other units and attachments, and Spirit of Resistance cannot leave the void.
Now, seriously, I would probably pick the Goliath if I was drafting with like someone else, or if I was making a video or anything. But if I was just drafting by myself, I would probably pick the Spirit because I'm a big memer, and it just has a lot of good laugh potential. I think, like because nobody ever will expect it.
Right. Draft Spirit and then take every ramp card you see.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
All the. I mean, if you go to that strategy, you're probably gonna end up in time anyway. You want the acolytes. You want the even this. I would play secret pages. If my objective is to get Spirit of Resistance.
Right. Yeah. Secret pages suddenly playable. Um, what would you say it would be your top three in this pack?
Ascending order, I would say it goes Stormcrusher, Dragon Breath, and then Nikolaev as the first pick.
Okay, I think I would have Stormcrasher and then probably Extract and then Goliath. But
Yeah. No,
I
go
know,
on, go on.
I know we disagree a little bit on Extract, but yeah, I like Extract. Although I'd rather pick it up later in the first pack. I'm okay first picking it as well.
Yeah, Exile is one of those cards that you kind of want when you're already pretty committed to Shadow because you can't really. It's a good card, but you can't really. It's not really splashable in any way, shape, or form.
All right, you ready for pack two?
All right, I'm ready for pack two.
All
Which
right,
is a bit more interesting than first pack.
I would agree with that.
Or this one. So we have our first common is Circe's Meddling. It's 6 power and 1 primal influence for a fast spell. It transforms a unit into a 2/2 pig. So this is not a terrible card. It's not unplayable. It's a perfectly fine removal spell. Sometimes it can even like extreme situation. You can even transform your own like 1/1 dork into a 2/2. Just ick that extra point of damage for lethal maybe. It's a decent card.
Yeah, I think it's more playable than people give it credit for. Primal
Definitely.
doesn't get removal, and you can occasionally blow people out with this. So I think it's a fine. I wouldn't want to first pick it, but I'm happy to play like one of them in my Primal decks.
Exactly. Next we have Awakened Sentinel, a 5 mana, 1-time influence for 3/5 Endurance Warp. Very solid body, and Warp is a very valuable keyword.
Agreed.
Definitely the runner-up. Forge Wolf, 1 mana, 1 fire influence, 1/1, summon the non-legendary player. Even if I'm desperate for spark activations, like if I somehow draft like 2 Groundbreakers or like something like that, I'm still like I'm not playing this. I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's just the body is just too small, and it's not even you don't even have the option to hit a unit. It's only dealing the damage to the player. It's just not worth it.
Yeah. Next we have Praxis Stranger, 2 mana for 2/2, no influence requirements, just a bear, and the summon will give you Praxis Influence, which is fire and time. Strangers are very solid in this meta. Like they're a very safe pick.
Yeah, I would say it's probably my leading pick at the moment.
Nah,
This pack.
I'm kind of between the Sentinel and the Stranger, but I can understand going with the safe pick. Next up is Left Right Memory Keeper, 3 mana and 1 shell influence for a 4/1, no text, just vanilla elf warrior. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Just no.
Yeah, there seems like they were trying to push like a power matters theme in Shadow that just didn't get there. Like,
Yeah, most of it. And a lot of the reasons this fails because there are a lot of units that have more toughness than they have power in this format, like you mentioned.
yeah, yep. These unless you have a ton of weapons that give quick draw, these 4/1s or 6/1s or 7/1s aren't playable.
Yeah. Next up, we have Erilis Kopesh. It's a 6 mana +3/+3 for Justice Influence weapon. Summon the wielder gets flying this turn. This is actually very playable to go those strategies. Argent Board, the occasional Rocano deck. it can give you a bunch of reach, and +2/+2 is not it's not negligible.
Yeah, I would agree. It definitely gives evasion to a faction that doesn't have a ton of it. So even though it's just a single turn, sometimes that's enough to get the job done.
Yep. Next up, it's another Journeyman Armor. 3 mana, Praxis Influence for a 2/2 with Warp, and summon you play a +1/+1 Spiked Helm on one of your units. Like I already said, very solid card. Definitely first pick worthy, I would say.
Yeah, I don't typically like to first pick a multi-faction card, but I would with Journeyman Armor if the pack was weak enough,
Mm-hmm.
and be pretty happy with it.
Next up, our final common is Cripple. 4 mana, 1 shot influence for a spell given enemy unit -3/-2 with some pretty baller art.
Yeah, the art is much better than the card.
Definitely 100%. This is you will play this if you are starving for removal spells, but if you're in Shadow and you're starving for removal spells, I would say you're better just forfeiting the draft.
Right. There's so many better removal spells than Cripple in this format, so I would
Yeah,
actively try not to play this if I could.
yeah, and like we already mentioned, there's so many units that have a lot of toughness, so a lot of time this just will not kill anything.
Right. And the paying 4 power for that effect is a pretty significant tempo loss. So
Yeah. Next one, first uncommon, is Lumbering Gruan, 6 mana, 6/7, 1 primal influence. And when Lumbering Gruan blocks a unit, you stun him. So it does not deal nor receive any damage.
yep. What do you think about this card?
Actually, not a big fan. I think the card, I don't think it's unplayable, but I actually think it does fall into the bad category. Like, sure, it can save you occasionally, but it's just so slow, and it's just such a bad investment, I think.
Yeah, I'm actually a fan of this card. I think that a 6 power 6/7 beater essentially you want to play this in an aggressive deck, as sort of odd as that sounds. But you do need top end in this meta. You need ways to break board stalls, and attacking with a 6/7 can get there sometimes. And like you said, it can block in dire situations, but that's really not what you're looking to do with it.
Yeah. Next up, we have one of my favorite cards in Omens of the Past is Streetwise Informant. 4 and Argent Port for a 1/4 with Endurance Unblockable, and you can pay 5 to gain 2 armor. This card is just so elegant, and every single word in it is relevant. Like, the Endurance is relevant, the Unblockable is relevant, even the armor ability can be relevant sometimes. I love this card.
Yeah, it's really good, and I lose this card so often, and it's so frustrating because you put any number, like if you put a weapon on it, even if it's a bronze cuirass, it's an 04, all of a sudden you've got to find a way to deal 8 damage to it, and it's unblockable, and it's just impossible to do. So you need like execute doesn't work unless you can trick them into blocking. Annihilate doesn't work. Like the only thing that can kill it is like Death Strike or like a Cerso's Meddling, something along those lines.
Polymorph, yeah, like Transform effects or just outright kill effects, which are definitely more rare than set 1.
Right. I guess Inspire Obedience would work as well, but it's just the answers are very narrow, and it's a great card. I lose to it all the time.
Hey, better to lose to this than to lose to Bartholo.
It's true. I would agree with that.
Next up, our final uncommon is Amber Ring. Probably my favorite ring. I think it's tied between this and the Justice Ring. It's 3 power 4 and 1-time influence for a relic, and once per turn you can pay 3 power to play a 1/1 Explorer.
Yeah, I think this card is great. I'm a big fan of it. I like it a little bit more than the green ring, but like you said, it's pretty close.
Yeah, I would say I like the green ring just a tad bit better because the green ring is better at breaking board stalls, which are pretty usual in this meta.
Yep. And
Yeah.
what is our rare?
Our rare is it's a card with Mentor. It's not even a good one.
Oh,
It's a Master's Lessons. It's a 4 mana spell with double horror influence because of course.
right.
And it has Mentor. You draw a card for each of the students' battle skills.
Wow. So the most powerful draw spell in the game, right?
Possibly. Possibly the most.
It has the most potential power
Yeah.
in terms of drawing cards. If you can get a unit with like 10 battle skills.
Yeah, I mean, if you play this, like if you okay, so the best sequence for this is you play a full play set of Tranquil Scholar, which is gonna be difficult, and then you have to get a different keyword on each one that fits on Icaria, and then you play Icaria, and then you play this, and then you draw upwards of 12 cards.
Yeah. Yep.
Cards garbage.
Yeah, it's terrible. I've tried to play this in draft and it's not great. I mean, I don't know. It takes a very specific deck, and the chance that you're ever actually going to have the correct deck is very, very small, and you should probably just lean on never playing this.
Yeah, like here's the thing: if this drew just 2 cards, I think it would be perfectly playable. And the fact that it has Mentor and the temples that implies is just so bad.
Yeah. Yeah, what we talked about yesterday, what's the what do we expect the average case on this to be? And I said you can probably expect to draw 1 card, and what did you say? You could draw somewhere between 0 and 1 cards.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like that line.
that's not where you want to be with your four power spell that requires you to exhaust a unit.
Not only that, but it also requires it requires double horror influence.
Double your influence, yeah.
Anyway,
so what are your top 3 here?
my runner-ups, again, ascending order, there would be the Stranger, then the Informant, and then the Amber Ring.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the Amber Ring is definitely the first pick or the best pick here for your pack 1 pick 1. And I think that I think Sentinel is solid. I might put Gruen in there over the Praxis Stranger, but I'm just sort of partial to that card.
Yeah, I'm also thinking a bit about Awakened Sentinel, but I think that the top 3 just doesn't make it. It's very good card, but doesn't make it quite there.
All right. So what are we going to talk about next?
Next up in our daily content table is KC Bandit Seal Tournament. So this is a pretty exciting thing that's going to happen tomorrow, actually. So if you're listening to this, I actually don't know when we're going to publish this. So when we publish, it's probably going to start already. It's probably going to be started already. But yeah, I'm just going to give a shout out to KC Bandit for sponsoring this $300 Seal Tournament, which is going to be run by RNG Eternal. And okay. I think this is gonna be fun. I definitely don't think it's gonna be a very competitive thing. Like I don't encourage people to take this super seriously. I encourage people to sign up to have fun while that's, but definitely don't expect to have the most consistent experience, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree. It's interesting that there's a $300 prize pool for this because it feels like based on the testing that I've done that there's not a ton of skill that's going to be involved. I feel like it's going to be decided a lot by variance, just because the decks are enormous, and that's not KC Bandit's fault or RNG's fault. That's just an issue with Direwolf Digital not allowing us to have more like casual deck options when playing with friends.
Yeah, I mean, they've been making different updates to the client, and I just assume that that is just not on their short list, which it is kind of a shame for this particular tournament, but I kind of get it.
Right. Yeah. So I've done a little bit of testing, and it feels like most of your decks are going to have to be at least 3 colors. You'll be very lucky to get just a 2-faction deck.
If you open a playset of Sick Power, you're set.
You're set. The best one I've had so far is I opened 2 Infernal Tyrants and also some of the good Life Force cards, and I had enough fixing to sort of make it work. But yeah,
Zenskar.
Yeah, there's just not enough fixing, and it's gonna be an interesting time. I'm expecting to have fun, but it's definitely gonna be odd.
No, it's gonna be fun, but I think that the expectation is that whoever can make a consistent 2-color deck is probably gonna be the winner.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, but yeah, sign up if you still can by the time this is published. Have fun. It's a fun little thing. It's fun to experience new formats, different ways to play Eternal, just getting away from the monotony of ladder, maybe even the monotony of draft, because we've been drafting this draft format for quite a bit now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of drafting this format for quite a bit,
Oh yeah, let's. So this is not set in stone, but Scarlatch has commented on the possible format for set three. When set three drops, we can expect to draft one set three pack, one set one pack, one set two pack, and then another set three pack. So 3-1-2-3.
Yep.
Hmm.
I have many thoughts about the new proposed draft format. I'm a little, as just from my own perspective as a single person or a single player who's just interested in limited. I'm kind of bummed that it's not going to be four set three packs, just because I'm a little tired of set one and two, and I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know what the format's going to look like. Are there going to be enough Nightfall cards in just two packs to make that even a thing? Like, are we diluting all of the different
Mechanics.
mechanics too much, and so it's just going to be a big pile of good stuff every time? Or, set two was really synergy driven, and now to only have one pack of set two, it's like, what is even the point almost? But on the other hand, I do want this game to grow, and I think having a format where people can get cards from all the sets is probably going to be healthy for new players joining the game.
Yeah, I think definitely that's one of their main priorities. And I am interested in seeing how this format plays out. It might be good, which I'm not very hopeful. I'm not expecting it to be good. It might be bad, which I'm expecting it to. But I'm gonna be hopeful, but skeptical at the same time. And I don't want to play it, and we're gonna report on it. But one thing is certain: it's gonna be a very weird looking format.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It's gonna be odd, and I would also say like I don't I don't think that they could only have one set three pack, and I would still play this format. That's how much I enjoy drafting. I'm just a degenerate
Probably.
drafter, so uh, I'm still super excited for this format.
Yeah. Definitely. I think the fixing is gonna be also an interesting question because this can mean one of two things: either set three is going to have new power cards or just new strangers, which I would find weird to have functional reprints already this early in the game. But it can mean either that, or it can mean that we will not have new power cards and new fixing ways in set three, and that one of the main reasons they're doing this is to keep some kind of fixing in the format.
Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe we'll get tri-faction strangers. That would be exciting.
Oh god, that would be oh getting nightmares about that. But yeah, I think the conclusion we draw is we are both skeptical but hopeful at the same
Yeah,
time.
yep, I would agree with that.
All right, next thing on the table is so we've been drafting this set two format for quite some time already, and people have had their opinions. They're very strong opinions about how much this format is, in many ways, worse than the empty throne and four packs of empty throne format. What are your thoughts on people's opinions on why this format sucks so much?
Um, I think that in a lot of ways, it's a more skill testing format. Um, and we'll talk a bit more about that as we go on. But there's a lot of sort of nuance to the draft portion. Whereas set one, you sort of found your open faction pair, and you were rewarded for that. In set when set two came along, that it sort of just blew up everything. You could all of a sudden you could be drafting, four and five faction color decks. There was more synergy but less consistency. Um, so yeah, I think there's a lot that goes into people's reason for thinking it's not as good as set one.
Yeah. One of my things is that there is a very big power level discrepancy between those two sets, and there's also a very big size discrepancy. Another main thing is the mechanics. So the simple one mechanics, stuff like Warcry. Most Warcry cards are just good by themselves. You're not gonna build a Warcry deck because the units and have a lot of synergy with the mechanic. You're gonna build a Warcry deck because the units themselves are very solid, very on the curve. Some of them are even above curve, like Oni Ronin. and the mechanic itself is just so snowball in nature that you don't even need that many units. However, you go something like Mentor, you go something like Life Force, and all of a sudden you need all this synergy to make your deck work, and it's just really, really hard to draft a consistent deck.
Yeah, I would agree. And also, there's many more unplayable cards in set two than I think there were in set one. That goes to your comment about the power level, and so you can end up after your set two draft with a deck that doesn't actually function, which is not something that happened very often in set one.
Yeah, even in set one, even if you drafted colors that were not that open, you could still end up with a playable deck that could squeeze out like one or two wins. I feel like O3 results are much more normal in this format because in set one, I think I feel that even with a bad deck, you could still squeeze at least one win.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's also this format is slower, right? We talked yesterday. There's the proportion of cards that have higher toughness than power is much higher in set two than in set one. In set one, the cards that have higher toughness than power is like 1/10 of the cards, and in set two, it's 1/5 of the cards. So there's so the boards just are going to stall naturally, and I think as a result, the the board stalls tend to reward skill games, and so I think it's just more frustrating for people that don't have as much experience in CCGs and maybe haven't played Magic and don't understand how to navigate a board stall and break a board stall.
Yeah, and I think that definitely contributes a lot to the frustration a lot of people feel the format because, like I said, the drafting part itself is already more skillful than set one, so you have to pay a lot of attention. And then you also play this game that are much longer than set one because I think we can both agree that set one was a very aggressive format where games could often be over by turn four.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Effectively
Yeah,
over by turn four. I mean, you
yeah,
might.
and
Oh, go
go
ahead.
on, go on.
You might still
No,
have some life at turn four, but the game was effectively over.
yeah, basically, and in this format, you get to turn six plus. You can get to eight power and such. You can play eight power units, which was not something that could happen at all in set one unless you're a super heavy control deck, which could happen. Shadow was very good in set one, but you're playing this long stalling games, and you have to play 7 games. Sure, you can take a break, but most people don't do. Let's be honest. And I think that definitely contributes a lot to the frustration where if you can get more power through, you have these longer games. It's definitely something that kind of takes a bit of a toll in your calm.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And like especially for people who play the game casually, who just want to sit down and enjoy a draft after a long day of work, like set two is just not what you want to do. It's definitely takes a lot of concentration, a lot of thought process during the draft. So yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a format that's more made for I wouldn't say grinders, but people that play a lot of draft and just are naturally good at it.
Yeah, it's a very deep format. The meta has changed fairly significantly throughout, which is something that you don't usually see in a draft format that's not deep. So
Yeah, then like cards have gone up and down in the ratings. There's been a lot of discussion around cards, and like I said, I don't think this format is better than set one because I think set one just had a really nice power level. It was a great introduction format to introduce someone to draft, and I think this format is just a bit too deep. Like we've gone from one part of the spectrum to the other, and that's just a bit of a too sudden of a change. I think.
oh yeah, that's a great point. It definitely feels like sort of almost like you're playing a different game to some extent. I feel like there could have been a better transition into a set like this, a set two. But
Yeah,
also,
definitely.
I hope that they continue to do things like make balance changes to the draft format. I thought the changes to Topaz Drake were pretty interesting, um, and I hope they to see things like that after Set Three is released as well.
Yeah, definitely one of the main problems with the draft and Eternal is that we only get a direct update to the format when we have a big set release, which only happens. Apparently, it's only from what we've seen. I deduced it's only going to happen about twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a pretty big chunk of time because the adventures, while they are fun to play and while they do add to the constructed format, which is also fun in its own way, just do not add anything to draft forms. It's not really an event that happens for us drafters.
Right, and especially if you come from a Magic background like you and I do, like you're used to like a new draft format like every quarter, every 3 months.
Yeah,
So it sort of just drags on and on a little bit.
and it's also really annoying when you see all these adventure cards that look like they would be perfectly fine in draft. They would be perfectly drafted like Dilfek stock or like Cruciation. I would love to play with Cruciation. It's just why are these cards not in a big set and just make these adventure cards just put something else. Put something that's not good in drafting this adventure card. Don't make us envious.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind even seeing like adventure cards show up in the draft format after they're released. Like I don't feel like that would too negatively impact what they've, the format that they've designed for us.
Well, definitely, it would just be a bit of a mess with the fact that you can keep the cards you draft.
Right. They'd have to work that out, but I mean, who wouldn't want to see Tavrod in draft, right?
Oh God, I think you just made a couple of people quit the podcast.
Oh goodness. All right, what's next on our agenda here?
All right, let's jump to the spoilers. We've gotten a bunch of spoilers during this last week. A couple of very exciting spoilers. I think this format is gonna be a lot of fun. I think this set is definitely shaping up to be at least more interesting than Omens of the Past.
Yeah, I would agree. Is it okay if I go ahead and do the honors on the first one here?
Sure.
All right, so our first card is a unit. It is called Helpful Doorbot. It is a 0 power, 1 fire influence, 03 Grenadin. What do you think about this card?
I think it is not stone cold unplayable as many people have labeled it.
Yeah, I think it probably depends on how aggressive the format is, right? Whether or not you want to be putting an 03 in your deck or not. Whether or not it's blocking a 2 power unit every turn is worth it. But yeah, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, it wields a weapon pretty well, and it only costs you. It doesn't cost you any in-game resources. It just costs you a slot in your deck.
Right. Yep. So it's potentially playable, but we'll have to wait and see until we see more of the format.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Next one.
This one is Milos Izalio Hate to Rebellion. It's a 3 mana 2/3 double fire influence. When Milos Izalio attacks while wielding a weapon, you get +2 power this turn, and it has Gunslinger Ally, which will give him double damage. So you should be able to see on screen a little explanation of how Ally works, but for the people that are not watching the video, just spell it out for you. So each Ally ability has a creature type, which is frequently but not always of the same type as the unit itself. So in the case of Izalio, he's a Rebel Gunslinger and he has a Gunslinger ally. So whenever another unit of the specified type on the ally enters the battlefield, the ally will trigger, but it will also trigger if a unit of the specified type is already on the battlefield. So if you already have, let's say, what's the 2/2 for 2 on fire that has Quick Draw and Warcry?
Oh yeah,
Outlaw?
yeah,
Something
the
Outlaw?
Rakano Outlaw.
Rakano Outlaw, that's the one. So if you have Rakano Outlaw out, and on turn 3 you play Milos Zalio, he will come on the battlefield, and then he will immediately get double damage.
Yep, this card looks really good.
Yeah, I mean, if you can reliably activate the ally, which should not be that difficult, because here's what I like about this kind of like tribal mechanic. These tribes are not new. They have been thoroughly supported towards through sets 1 and 2.
Yep.
So it should be fairly easy to activate this right as he comes to the battlefield, if not on the turn after. It's just really good. A 3 mana, effectively 4/3 doesn't like to like vanquish. It's just a very solid unit.
Yeah. And I think that the first couple of lines are not irrelevant either. The ramping 2 power, if you can put a weapon on it, is pretty significant. We'll have to see if there's any payoff for that in the draft format, but it's pretty interesting.
No, I mean, if you put like a Crown Watch Longsword or a ornate katana on it, like he pays for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Basically.
Yep. And then if he has double damage, I mean, it just goes great. It's just a well-designed card, and I'm excited to play with it.
That's just a very solid card. I really like it. Nice. Next card.
All right, next card we've got Yeti Sage. It is a 2 power 1 fire influence 1/1 Yeti, and it has double damage, and then it also has Entomb. So when it dies and goes to the void, create and draw trail stories.
I just love the flavor of this card. Like, you have this old Yeti, and when it dies, this is the story of my people, Nimble Mumble.
Yeah, it's interesting. At worst, it's what? It acts like a 2/1 for 2, which is not unplayable at all.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely play the good boy, the Blink Wolf,
Blink
and
Wolf.
even if you cannot warp it, that is a perfectly playable solid unit.
Yeah, and also there's the upside of drawing a trail stories. So it sort of points to maybe there's going to be like some kind of spell matters deck in the format,
Yeah, and either
potentially.
Skycrag or Praxis. I could see it, yeah.
Praxis. Well, they keep printing Praxis cards that care about spells, but they don't print any good time spells to go with it.
Look. The reason they have put set 2 packs in this format is that so you can draft a bunch of Yeti Sages, and then you can draft a Moment of Creation and leave the Moment of Creation green deck.
Oh man, drafting a bunch of rare Yeti Sages. That's definitely going to happen.
Hey man, don't dismiss it.
all right, I won't. Yeah,
Yeah, this is playable.
This is
very
playable, and it has great art, and it's very flavorful. So I like this card a lot.
Yeah, very good.
All right, next card.
I really like this card. So next card is Topple Tower, and for people that are not watching, the art is just a bunch of Grandons literally toppled on top of each other. It's a unit type Grenadine, so if there are any Grenadine ally cards, this is gonna activate them. So it is a 3 power 1 fire influence 0/4, but it has +2 attack for each Grenadine in your void. I think this is a very nice, interesting payoff for kind of like going deep into Grenadine. I think you can draft a bunch of like Grenadine drones, or if we're gonna have an equivalent to Grenadine drones in like set 3, I think this can be definitely very powerful.
Yeah, for sure. It's I mean we'll have to see how relevant the 4 toughness is. I think it probably is very relevant. It's gonna block a lot of the early game, and maybe this will bring Stone Scar back to the draft format, hopefully. And that you can sack a bunch of your cheap Grenadine and make this thing pretty large.
Ooh, the old Stone Scar sacrifice there with a bunch of Grenadines, a bunch of Combusts, some Devours.
Yeah. Maybe we'll also get like a new spell that's like sacrifice a unit and deal its damage to the enemy player. That would be kind of interesting.
Oh my god, I would love. So for people that don't know, that's actually a very notorious card in MTG is Fling. In Eternal, it would basically be 2 power 1 fire, sacrifice a unit and deal its damage to any target. Yep. There's a lot. I've been cheesed out by that card so many times in Magic the Gathering. Like, like someone plays a bunch of like finest tower effects on one of their units that flings them my face.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, I think this is playable, but it will depend on the format.
Yeah. All these Grenadine have like high toughness. Not all of them, but some of the ones we've seen, like the Doorbot. And I just want to be in like Rakano and pick up what is that relic from set 2 from Omens that like when you play a unit it gains.
Oh, Shadow of the Spire.
Yeah, Shadow of the Spire. You get the highest power or toughness, and all of a sudden this is just a 4/4. It's gonna be great.
The Shadow of the Spire Grenadine Dead Dream.
Yeah. All right, next one is a new spoiler from last night. It is Great Kiln Titan, and I have to say I'm so excited about this card.
This card is amazing.
It's a unit. It's 8 power, double fire influence. It's a 9/7. It's a sentinel in case that matters. And then when you play a relic, you deal damage equal to its cost to an enemy. So it could be an enemy unit or the player.
And here's the kicker.
And at the end of your turn, play the top card of your deck, just for free.
For free, no questions asked.
Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily replace itself because it's hard to replace a 9/7, but you do get to draw and play whatever card's on the top, and that's just incredible.
Even if it's a shield, you just get it like kind of like filled at the top of your deck.
Yeah. The only downside is if you manage to like put like a Death Strike or a Vanquish, and it's on the top of your deck, and this is the only unit on the battlefield, then you're gonna have to lose your Great Kiln Titan. But I think that can probably be mitigated with proper deck building.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely a very skill testing card as far as deck building goes, I think.
Yeah, but like
Which is
I saw this last night, and I was just really excited.
yeah, no, this card is amazing. Just you're always gonna first pick this. You're always gonna slam this. It's just so good.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped. All right,
Yeah, it's fantastic.
next one.
Crown Watch Quartermaster. I really like this card. This card is really, I think it's really good. It's six mana double justice influence for 2/4. You can pay 6 and exhaust Crown Watch Quartermaster to give +1/+1 to another unit for each one of your units. So if you have 3 units, you can pay 6 and give any other unit +3/+3 permanently for 6 mana. This is repeatable. It's not an ultimate. It does, however, have Valkyrie Ally, which Ally kind of works like an ultimate. So if you either have a Valkyrie when you play this, or if you play a Valkyrie after you play this, you will play 2/2 soldiers. So it kind of like fuels itself.
Yeah, I think this card is, like you said, very good. The fact that it's not an ultimate, that it's repeatable, is just a way to break board stalls in draft, and that's very valuable. And like it's also just crazy. Like, can you imagine just giving like +3/+3 to like your best flyer every turn? Like, that's just insane.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I would say it's good even if you can't activate the Ally ability.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You're less excited to play it, but it's I mean, because coming down, well, you get like what a 6/8 out of your 6 power if you can activate the ally ability. But still, it's still just a great card.
Yeah, this is definitely very first pick, a very very bomby card.
Yep. All right, next one. We have Last Stand at the Gate, and it is a spell. It has 7 power, 3 justice influence. When you play it, it says play 3 2/3 treasury guards and a 6/6 gilded hammer. Your life total becomes 1. And the gilded hammer is just a vanilla 6/6 relic weapon.
Yeah, and the treasury guards are just the 2/3s and tuners that we know and love.
Yep. I think this is an interesting card. I think I would probably play it in draft, and
Yeah.
you sort
Worth
of
mentioning, this is legendary, by the way.
right. So it's not like it's
Oh,
gonna happen often, but I could see first picking this and being fairly happy with it. I'll be first picking it anyways, just so I can have a copy of it. But I also see playing it.
Yeah, I just don't think where you fit this card, because if you're in like an aggressive justice deck, I feel like this doesn't really fit.
No,
Maybe if you're like more like a tempo deck.
yeah. I don't know. It can. I don't know. It's interesting. Like, you essentially set your health to 7 after you get the hammer, and then you can theoretically remove one of their units as long as it doesn't have 7 power.
Yeah, it gives you three fairly decent blockers for
Yeah.
the cost.
Although I'd rather have like 3 Karmic Guardians. That would be like way better.
I would rather have. I would be content even with Carwash Paladins. No, not Carwash Paladins. The Treasury Paladins.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah.
Just the lack of not being able to defend against flying is a little nerve wracking. But at least it's an interesting card. I'm happy to see them
It's a
print
pretty
things
hard
like
to
this.
evaluate card, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
All right. Next
We're
one.
holding judgment on this one.
Yeah, for sure. Next one, you get a good one here.
Oh, I love this card. It's great art too. Stella the Shot Caller. It's 3 mana and 1 Justice Influence for 2/2 with Aegis, so old friend Bartholo stats. And when Stella attacks while wielding a weapon, each gunslinger and weapon in your deck gets +1/+1. She's a gunslinger herself, so that can count for a couple of things. But yeah, that the weapon applies to both relic weapons and thermal weapons. I think this card is just really good, depending on the amount of weapons you get. Even without the weapon, it's decent, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't probably typically play like a 3 power 2/2 with Aegis as just a vanilla, but I think that you can build your deck around the gunslinger and weapon theme enough to make this useful.
weapons for sure, because there are a good amount of good weapons in both Rakano and Argenport, like the main Goto factions.
Yeah, I would love to play this in an Argenport deck for sure.
Oh, amazing! Yeah, this card is. I would not say super first pickable because it kind of dictates how you're gonna draft the rest of your deck, but it's definitely very exciting.
Yeah, I agree. All right, next we have an infamous card already. It is Wanted Poster. It is a curse, which it seems to be important in this coming format. It is a
Yes,
one.
there's a certain attachment sub theme in the set. It
Yeah,
seems.
it is a one power single justice influence wanted poster, and when the cursed unit dies, you draw two cards. And important to note that you cannot curse your own units.
Yeah, so you cannot do dumb stuff sacrifice like a sacrifice deck and just destroy. You cannot skull clamp this.
Right? Yeah, you can't.
So,
You can't put it on your
for,
own like Dark Wisp and then devour
yeah.
it and draw a
So
million
for people
cards.
that don't know, skull clamp is a match dying card. That's basically an attachment that gives +1 -1 to a unit, and when that unit dies, you draw two cards. As one of the most busted cards in the history of Magic.
Yep.
This
Yep.
is not as busted. I feel like people are overvaluing this card a lot.
I would agree with
Personally,
you. Yeah. It's
like even if,
you
go
go.
on.
Yeah, no, you go ahead.
Okay, so even if you play this and then you play a removal spell, you're technically not that up in cards. Like you've traded 2 for 2.
Right. Yep. And I mean there's like it has some interesting use like you could prevent potentially a unit from attacking or blocking cuz they don't want you to draw the cards. But yeah, I think people are pretty hype about this, but I don't think it's as good as it looks.
Yeah, it's an interesting card, and I think it's gonna be fun. And the art is so Acorn Delphin made a made a little mod on the art of this card where each poster had like one of them had Tavrod, one of them has Sandstorm Titan, and the other one's like a Doorbot.
Yeah, I saw that. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see like if like is does this go in the deck that cares about curses? It'll be interesting to see if you'll play it
Yeah,
just for that synergy. But yeah,
yeah. I definitely think you play this on a deck that has a lot of removal, but if you have a deck that has a lot of removal, you have a good deck. I don't think you need the extra card that much.
right, exactly. All right, next one. It's a new one from last night.
Oh god, do I really have to read this one?
Yes, you do.
4 mana, Justice, Cursed Relic. The Cursed player has -1 maximum power. They did it. The Madmen actually did it.
Yeah. I don't know what to think about this. I guess this is what Conley Woods was talking about when he said we were gonna get the like an analog to land destruction in the format.
Oh, when he said that.
Oh, that was it was like a week ago. He said that set three would bring the some form of power disruption to the format.
Oh, he said like on stream.
Yeah, I think it was during one of his streams.
Oh, interesting. I should follow that guy some more. But yeah, I just why? This is not even good. Okay. So I'm mad about this. So I'm just gonna go a bit of a limb and I say I don't consider land destruction to be an interesting mechanic. I don't consider land destruction to be a fun mechanic. I don't consider land destruction to be good design. And it's even worse when the card is not even playable.
Yeah.
Like I would probably be even more mad if this was playable, but
But you're also just sort of annoyed that they didn't even make it playable. Like they,
yeah, it's
yeah.
like why are you making this? What is the purpose of this card?
I,
Is my question.
I don't know. I guess to counter Xenon Obelisk, you know, maybe there's gonna be a Power Matters theme or something. I don't know, but this looks right now like stone cold unplayable to me.
Yeah, definitely. This is I think this the sole purpose of this card is when a new player comes around and asks us why don't we have all the cool match dying mechanic, which is point to this card.
Right.
Yeah, this is Stone Cold Unplayable. I hate this card. Can I just say I hate this card?
Yeah.
I hate the design of this card. I hate that it exists, and I just hope I never open it.
Guaranteed opening it first pack now. All right. Next we have your favorite card. Ask for
Hello.
directions.
Curse of Taxation is my new favorite card.
This card is a spell. It's 2 power, single time influence, and it has Scout. So Scout is look at the top card of your deck. You may put it on the bottom, and then it says when you attack with 2 or more explorers, you may draw ask for directions from your void. This is not the rare that you want to open in your set 3 packs and draft. Um,
Definitely. Not even in your not sure if you buy packs for Constructor, I think you want to open this.
I think that that's still up for debate. This card just like we said, it's not good on its surface. This needs additional cards, and that's sort of like a hallmark of a bad card. Is
This
that
needs an insane amount of synergy to be even worth it. You need to recur this at least 3 times, I would say, for it to start to even pay for itself.
right? So not only is it just bad, but you also need other cards in your deck to make it even playable, and even then, it's sort of like questionable whether or not it's playable. And so I think that
Yeah, because if you are successfully attacking with 2 units every turn, I don't think you are in trouble or you need consistency on your draw. I think you're already winning.
yeah, I would agree. So the only thing that I think could make this playable is if there is a Scout Matters theme, like where if you scout, like you gain life. Like if there was a relic that says whenever you scout, gain 3 life or something like that. Um, that could start to bring this into the realm of possibility. But then you're still, needing to draw those cards in your draft deck, and I just think that you should probably just not play this.
Yeah, this is like you said. If there are cards that care about the scout, again, I don't think you play this, which is bad. But it could be one of the main reasons why they actually keyworded the effect.
Yeah.
Another theory I have is that we will see cards that have multiple instances of scout, like Scout 2 or Scout 3.
Oh yeah, that's interesting too. Um, and those cards would be really great with a Scout Matters card, right?
Yeah, if there is one. I really hope there is one. That's actually an interesting use for the mechanic.
Maybe they'll print it in 4 sets from now, and then all of a sudden, Ask for Directions will be like amazingly playable.
Yeah, as for duration, is gonna be a key piece in a game-breaking combo deck in our next Eternal format.
All right, so next is our
I
first
love this card.
Nightfall card.
I love this card. So the way Nightfall works, when you play, some cards will have as a summon or as an effect, they will make Nightfall. They will have Nightfall. What Night does is there will be Night the first turn you play the card, and the turn after that, and then at the end of your second turn with Night, unless you play a Night card, the Night ends. So when it's Night, each player at the beginning of their turn will draw a card and lose 1 life. So you get basically the Auric Interrogator effect, so to speak. This is symmetrical. Your opponent also does that, which makes the mechanic very interesting. And then there are cards that do different things at night. For example, Lunar Magus has Nightfall, so it will make night. It will draw a card for you and your opponent. And when you start your turn night, next turn you will gain 4 life. So it technically gains you 3 life in a card.
Yeah, and your opponent will then lose a life and draw a card as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
By the way, stats. I forgot the stats. So this is a 2/4 for 3 power and 2 time influence.
Yeah, I think this card is great.
Yeah, I think this card is very solid.
Yeah, it's I'm really excited to play with Nightfall and Night, and I think it's gonna make games feel better. Everyone's gonna be drawing more cards. There's gonna be more decisions to make, and I think it's just overall gonna be good for the game.
Yeah, it's gonna augment consistency. Even if it's not like a super powerful mechanic, it's just good to have more ways to draw cards in the game, even if it is symmetrical. Actually, I think this is one of the best design mechanics we've seen so far. I really think this will be the runner-up mechanic of the set, personally.
The what mechanic of the set?
The runner-up mechanic, like the best mechanic in
Oh,
the
the
set.
best mechanic. Yeah, I think so too. It's really interesting. I'm excited to see Bond. I hope we get to see some Bond cards soon. But yeah, Night is looking really cool.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be hard to top the night mechanic.
All right, ready for the next one?
Yep.
So yesterday, GeoQuake got all like the really cool cards, but since we've added some from last night, I get to spoil all the cool cards now. The next one is a relic. It costs
All the cool bomb playable ones,
it's,
apparently.
it costs 8 power, triple time influence called Temporal Distortion. Your spells are fast. At the start of the enemy turn, replenish your power.
This card is dumb, unplayable, and you should not play it in draft. However, do draft it for constructed because it's gonna be awesome.
Uh,
That's all I have to say.
don't listen to that. We're gonna first pick this every time, or we're gonna try to make it work every time, just like we did with Mating Call, and it's gonna be great. No, I think that 8 power is a lot. Triple time influence is especially a lot, and then your deck also has to have a reason to do, what it's doing. Either having a ton of ambush units, which is difficult, or having a ton of spells to play that are already slow. So
I mean, what's the ultimate dream for this? So the ultimate dream for this is drafting, I think, let's imagine hypothetically, you have to, so for the perfect storm to come together, you should open a Temporal Distortion, a Moment of Creation, a new Kyriak's Insatiable Seeker,
mm-hmm.
and then a bunch of spells, like a couple of torches, a couple of sick powers, a
Secret
couple of
pages.
secret pages. Yeah, secret pages actually. A couple of Wisdom of the Elders,
Find the
and
way.
just yeah, maybe even splash a fourth color for like. Oh, you definitely have to open a uh, Great Parliament for a big payoff
Oh
turn.
yeah, for sure.
You have to splash a fourth color for that, but hey, we're already picking the plan. But yeah, I think it's just unplayable in draft.
Yeah, I would agree with you, but I'm so excited for it. This was the card I was most hyped for until I saw Great Kiln Fiend, and now it's tied for my most hyped card for constructed. But yeah, it's just gonna be a lot of fun no matter where I get to play this.
Yeah, this is definitely an amazing card for constructed. There's like people are already brewing with it.
Yeah.
It's that amazing. It's that hype.
All right, ready for the next one? It's a new one from last night.
I really like this card. I just gotta say, all right. So this Junction is a two power 1-time influence. It's a common fast spell and it's a model spell. You either draw an attachment from your void or you kill an enemy attachment. I think this is one of the best design cards in the set. It is good enough for constructed, but niche enough for draft to be the common rarity. This is one of my favorite designs in the set.
Yeah, the fact that it's that common is really interesting. Maybe I mean we're gonna see. There's already quite a few cards that care about attachments and curses, and this is just really interesting.
Yeah, I think this is definitely main deckable in the right deck. Like we have a very kind of like weapons focused Combre deck, or if with all this attachment theme in set 3, there's gonna be a lot of curses running around, and this might have a lot of utility. I think, especially at fast speed.
Yeah, and at the end of our current set 2 meta, Argenport is pretty strong, and having more ways to deal with those decks that go tall is pretty important. So
Yeah, and just even recovering, like if I don't know, someone just randomly kills your obelisk. If you draft an obelisk, someone kills it, and you get this back. You can get back with this. It's just I think it's a card that's very interesting, and especially at common because I think it's common because this card is definitely worth the more copies you get. I think.
okay, that makes sense. And it combos with temporal distortion too, right? Like you. All right,
Oh yes, it
moving
does.
on. We have another Nightfall card. It's a Darkveil Agent. It's a unit, an unseen unit. Has a 2 power, single primal influence. And it says summon Nightfall, and then when you start your turn at night, your unseen get Aegis, and it's pretty powerful.
It's a rare also.
It's also a rare. Yeah, good call.
So yeah, this is a really good card. I think it's a bear, which bears are always good. Bears, if for people that don't play Magic, bear comes from the grizzly bear, which was one of the first creatures in Magic. It was a 2/2 for 2 mana.
Yep. And so this sort of passes the vanilla test, which is, do you get the equal number of power and toughness for the cost? And it does that. And it also draws you a card and potentially makes your units much more resilient to targeted removal.
Yeah, if you have a bunch of unseen, this is obviously fantastic. But even if you don't, if it survives the turn, which will often will. This is basically a 2 mana to 2 Aegis, which is very solid.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's a good card, and I'll be happy to play it in draft.
Yeah, this is definitely first pickable on the mediocre pack.
Yep. And next, one of your favorite cards.
Yeah, this is amazing. Just art, flavor, everything in this card is absolutely perfect, and I would not change. I would not change a word on it. Is a 5 power, 1 primal influence for a 2/6 Jotun Punter. It's a giant, and you can exhaust Jotun Punter to give one of your Yeti +4 attack and flying this turn. And at the end of your turn, you stun that Yeti.
Yeah, speaking of fling effects, this is very similar. I'm excited to play with this card. It's got great art, it's got good stats, and it has a really interesting effect.
Yeah, it
Um,
has the Waystone Infuser stat line.
yeah, yeah. Not probably not as powerful as Waystone Infuser, but I guess
Oh, definitely.
that depends how many Yeti you have. Um, but yeah, this card looks really interesting.
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of good 2-drop and 3-drop Yetis that definitely pass the vanilla test,
Yeah.
and this card definitely takes advantage of them very well. Literally takes advantage of them.
Yeah, it makes the 2/2 reckless that pings the opponent for one a little bit more playable. I can't remember what it's
uh,
called.
Yeti Snowchucker.
Yeah, yeah, and so yeah, all of a sudden it's a 6/2 flying. It's gonna end games pretty quickly if you have a couple Yeti on the field.
Yeah, the only thing that I'm worried about is the big temples that this card implies, because not only do you lose him for 1 turn, you lose your Yeti for 2 turns.
That's true. Uh,
But if you are swinging for 6 or 7 in the air, you should be ahead enough
right, and of
as for the
course
temple loss to be mitigated.
the real power is just giving all of your units endurance with an infinite hourglass, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And then the punter can block and your Yeti never get stunned. Oh, that's my plan at least. Just kidding. Don't ever draft Infinite Hourglass. It's terrible.
I mean, do draft it, but don't play it.
Well, yeah, okay, there you go. All right,
Yeah.
next card is one that's somehow sort of escaped the online gallery, but it is Jump Kick. It's a fast spell. It's 1 power, single primal influence, and it says give a unit +1/+1 in flying this turn. I think this
Uh,
is a good card.
yeah, I think this is a good card too. It's common, really nice effect. The +1/+1 can be very relevant. I don't think it's strictly better than Levitate because the Cardinal Levitate is really good, but I think it's definitely you would definitely want to play this often as Levitate. I think.
Yeah, I agree. Um, Getting in and for damage in the air. I think this will be great in Skycrag decks that, if like, not that Spark is still going to be a thing, but just aggressive decks will appreciate this.
Definitely, this is a really really good card, very solid.
All right, next up. Speaking of Yeti,
I love this little guy. Well, little in quotes. It's a legendary card. It's a 4 mana double primal 5/3 Food Rock Arctic Artisan. So it's a Yeti. Great art. He's making a little desert marshal snowman. It's adorable. So when Food Rock hits the enemy player, you play a snowman with power toughness equal to the number of Yetis you control.
yeah, this is a fun card.
Yeah.
It's got a pretty decent stat line. 5/3 is certainly um, serviceable for 4 power. What do you think?
I think the 3 health is a little bit too fragile. Like, I don't usually play Backroom Bouncer, and I don't think a +1 attack Backroom Bouncer with a slight upside, depending on how many Yetis I have drafted, is that great.
Yeah, I think this you definitely want at least in draft ways to give this evasion, whether it's
Yeah.
unblockable or flying or even
You
like
know what this card?
a
You know what this card makes me wish?
what?
This card makes me wish that Wump Party Starter would be in the draft format.
Right. Yeah, why don't we just have all promos just added to the format? That would be awesome. But yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
but even if you don't have a one party starter, you could draft like 3 ice bows to go along with this.
Yeah, and we don't have the whole full set. Remember, we have another Yeti Lord that's rare that gives like +1/+1 to all the Yetis.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this card's good. I think that I would be. I mean, I would first pick this in a fairly mediocre pack, probably.
Yeah, it's definitely first pickable. This also goes great with Jotun Panther swinging for 9 in the air.
Oh yes, and that sort of solves the problem of not being able to block because it's going to leave behind a
Yeah.
snowman, assuming you can deal damage.
Also, the snowman has an elemental tag, which I find kind of weird because it's not a sentient snowman, but whatever.
Right, right. How do you know? Maybe I'm
Oh god,
assuming.
invasion of the snowman.
Right. I mean, it's got a badge. It must have passed some kind of law enforcement test. All right, moving on. We have another new one from last night. It's Alu Death Dreamer. It's a legendary unit. It's a 6 power double primal influence unseen, and it has flying and summon Nightfall. And then when you play a curse, you play a 3/3 unseen with a random battle skill. This is an interesting card.
I think this card is really good. My inner constructed player, my inner Spike, wishes this card was a 5 mana to 6. But as far as draft purposes go, I think this is a very solid card if you can get even a decent number of curses.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, flyers are good. And a 2/5 flyer is going to be great at getting in damage when the board is stalled. And it's also fine as a blocker as well. And you're just drawing cards, which is great.
Yeah.
Another one of these cards that cares about curses, so it'll be interesting to see how many of those that, whether or not the curse deck or the attachments deck is really a thing that you can draft in this format. I'm excited to see.
Yeah, we had a little curse, a little shadow curse spoiled yesterday. I think it's very very good, and we'll get to it in a couple of minutes. But I think this card is very solid personally.
Yep. All right, here we
It's
go.
definitely pick up. It's definitely first pick up in a decentish pack.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd be happy to first pick this card. All right, next up.
Okay, so I really like this card. 5 power, 1 shadow influence, cover of darkness, nightfall. So it kind of replaces itself, but also makes your opponent draw cards and not really. Again, I don't know how to call this because is it really card advantage if your opponent also draws it?
It's not. It's it's something else. Like I said, I think we might have to come up with a new name for like what this is. I don't know that Magic has an exact analog for.
Yeah, this is such an interesting mechanic. I love
Yeah,
it.
I know it's really cool.
Yeah, but anyway, so 5 power, 1 shadow. This is a common spell. It has Nightfall, and it gives 2 of your units unblockable this turn. I think this is a very solid card.
I do as well. It's I think that Nightfall sort of lends itself to aggressive decks, and being able to give 2 of your units unblockable is pretty significant. And people are sort of like panning this as not being very good, but I think it'll be surprisingly good.
Yeah, like people, I've heard some people like compared to like Dust Blind, and I think this is so much better than Dust Blind.
Yeah, yeah, because Dustblind doesn't always draw you the card, right? You don't always warp it,
Yeah,
so I think that
this
this.
guarantees you a card draw, and it can really help you get in with like some of the most cheeky, most weak infiltrate units.
Yeah, and the like Dustblind's only exhausting 2 units. It's not. I mean, that doesn't mean that you can necessarily get in if the board is stalled big enough. Like this just
Yeah.
lets 2 units get in no matter what. So I think this card's much better than people are giving it credit for.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really top deck Dust Blind and it'll give you lethal. I think it will give you lethal in a couple of corner cases, definitely.
Agreed. All right, next up we have Devastating Setback. It is a rare spell, 4 power, double shadow influence. It's a modal card. It says the enemy player discards a spell or attachment of your choice from their hand, or each unit or all units get -2/-2. And
So yeah.
I think it's good. I mean, I'd like to play this in a control shadow deck for sure.
Oh, this is definitely a very solid card. I think the first mode is not really relevant, at least not for draft purposes. It's just sabotage effect. You don't usually play sabotage, much less a 4 mana sabotage. But a double plague, even if it is on all units, so you kind of have to be ahead for this. It's still a very good effect. Like sweepers are pretty high value in draft, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. And I'd also say that I feel like maybe the first mode is going to be more relevant than we give credit for, since there are a lot more attachments seemingly in this set than we've had before.
True, true. There is the attachment sub theme. I do like this card. I think it's possibly first pickable in a couple of weak packs.
Yeah, I would be happy with this card. All right, next up, one of your favorites.
Yeah, I love this card. Midis Nightshade, a 2-mana 3/2 Shadow Influence Unseen. It's a rare, and it has +1/+1 while an enemy is cursed. So doesn't have to be the enemy player. It can be one of their units. You can put like a one poster or something else on them, and this will be a 4/3, which is very solid for 2 mana.
Yes, very
And
very solid.
and then if you don't have a curse on your hand necessarily, you can pay 5 to ultimate Midis Nightshade and play a Nyctophobia on your opponent. So Nyctophobia has Summon Nightfall, and Night deals +1 damage to the cursed player. So your opponent will draw a card and take 2 damage when they start their turn at night.
Yeah, do you think that Nyctophobia will be its own card in the set, or do you think it's only going to be available from Mirror's Nightshade?
I think it will only be available from Midis Nightshade because I think this is definitely a constructed pushed card. Like I can definitely see this in a couple of constructed decks. And Nyctophobia is a pretty important effect. Like the difference between 1 and 2 damage for card draw is pretty important. Like for people that have played Magic, Necropotence is busted for a reason.
Well, you're right. You can pay any number of life to draw any number of cards, right? Is that how that works?
You can pay 1 life to draw a card.
To draw a card, gotcha.
And you can repeat any number of times.
And you're saying that paying 2 life to draw a card is much worse.
Definitely. Still, I mean, if we would have a relic like that, it will definitely still be busted. But I'm saying that if you can inconstructed, if you can keep the knight up, I think the damage can definitely pile up with Nyctophobia.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if it's its own card or not. It is. If it is, it would be common, and we do need common ways to cause nightfall to happen. So it'll be interesting.
Would you play Nyctophobia if it was its own card?
Not often, but I think it could be playable in the right deck.
Yeah, it needs a pretty niche deck, but yeah, I think Midis Nightshade is a fantastic card. Definitely first pickable, very very solid.
Yeah, definitely great. All right, next up, we have a legendary relic weapon called Name Taker. It's an 8 power, 3 shadow influence. It's a 6/4. When an enemy unit dies, the enemy player discards each copy from their hand and deck. And this card is not very relevant for draft because most people aren't going to have a ton of copies of a single card in the deck, especially given how the new format is supposed to be.
Except that one guy that once drafted about 6 or 7 Foothills Alpha.
Right. 6 or 7 Foothills Alpha and Mating Call. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see if this is played in constructed even, but it's like so much worse than like a Stone Scar Maul in draft.
Yeah, definitely. It does get extra style points for being a Jara the Deathshot's card.
Well, right. I mean, because Ashar is amazing.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't think that I'll be playing this too often. Although I could see it sneaking in a deck if I really was reaching for removal or something.
Yeah, this is not unplayable, but it's not super playable either.
Yeah. All right, next up, another new card spoiled last night.
I love this card. This card, I think this card is really good. It's Cowardice. I love the art. Like, look at that, like little. So it's a guy ducking behind a bunch of barrels with bullet holes in it, and he's waving a white flag. It's hilarious. But yeah, it's 2 mana Shadow Influence Curse. The cursed unit can't block.
And you think this is good? You think this is?
I think this is amazing in the right deck.
I am not a fan of this card at all. Unless like playing attachments is very central to my deck, I don't think I would ever put this in my deck.
I think this can be really good in the right deck.
It's essentially like a falser effect for Magic, right? Like a unit can't block in a turn, and I just don't think that. I guess but this is permanently, right? It just permanently can't block. So I don't know. I don't. My gut says maybe it's not great, but it's possible I'm misevaluating it.
Yeah, I think it definitely are no offense. But I think in very aggressive Stone Scar and Argent Vortex, I think this can be a real game changer.
Interesting. I
Yeah, I think this has the potential of being very good. It doesn't go in every deck, but it goes in very specific decks, and I think it will be an absolute all star in those very specific decks.
Huh. I mean, I could see it being like the last card that you include over another power, but I don't see it being an all star. I guess we'll have to wait and see how the format shakes out, but it'll be interesting to
Definitely.
see going forward which one of us is closer to being correct on that. All right, next up, a card I think we both like. It is Scale Tender. It is a uncommon explorer unit. It has a 4 power with a single Elysian influence. It's a 3/3. And it has Dinosaur Ally. Create and draw a 3/3 dinosaur with Overwhelm.
I really like this card.
Yeah, I do too. It's great.
This card is really good. So 4 mana 3/3 is not stone cold unplayable. We play cards like Xenon Guardian, and Xenon Guardian does have endurance, which is a pretty relevant keyword. But most of the times you're not playing Xenon Guardian because you're gonna ultimate 100% of the time.
Right, and I mean, I would play like a Cabal Bludgeoner even if I had no weapons. Like I'm okay playing a 3/3 for 4.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine, and if you can reliably activate this ally ability, which should be pretty easy because you have Raptor hatching at 3, you have Scaly Grunt at 2, which 9% of the time is going to survive to turn 4, and this is basically then a 6/6 sort of stats for 4 divine into 2 bodies, one of which has Overwhelm, which is really good.
Yeah, and I think we talked about yesterday a little bit that you can also bounce Scale Tender back to your hand, and you've probably already activated your ally ability, and you can replay it, and then you just get another 3/3 automatically next time you play it. So with cards
Yeah,
like
you can do a lot of shenanigans like teleport and like practice displacer.
right, because the ally, just like the other ultimate effect, sort of resets once the card changes zones.
Yes, I think this card is really good, and it has really good art too.
Yep, and notably, it's an uncommon, so you should be seeing a lot of this card. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah,
All right,
really
next
like it.
next up.
This is my one. Yeah, this is mine. So 3 mana Argent Influence for a 3/1 relic weapon with Valkyrie Ally +2 armor. I think this is solid.
Yeah, it's it's like a 1 power less magma javelin. I think you'll play it. Um,
Yeah, like Magma Javelin is a perfectly respectable pseudo removal spell.
yeah, not excited about it, but it's also fine to have in the format.
Yeah, and if you can reliably activate the ally ability, I think the Valkyrie ally is going to be at fault of seeing any other good card filling Valkyrie in set 3 for now. I will go out and say that Valkyrie ally will be the most difficult ally type to activate
Yeah, interesting. There's
because a
definitely
lot of the good Valkyries are at rare is one of the
yeah
main reasons.
yeah. There's not too many amazing Valkyries. Although the what's the 4 power that you gain 2 armor? That would be interesting.
Uh, Valkyrie something something. It's a 4 mana to 2 for Injustice that you gain 2 armor every time you play a weapon.
Yeah, that would be interesting to play this after you've played have one of those on the battlefield. Because
That would be a 3/5.
a 3/5, so a slightly
Yeah.
better Mithril Mace. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe exciting is not the right word, but
I
uh,
mean, we already play Sword of Icaria, and Sword of Icaria dies to attack units, but if you can reliably activate the ally on this, very solid card.
yeah. Do you want to go ahead and do another one? I know this next card's your favorite, one of your favorites.
Sure, yeah. Alright. This is one of my favorite cards in the set. This is so amazing. 4 mana. This is a legendary unit, so I'm not gonna see it a lot, but I think you're gonna slam pick it every time you see it. It's a 4 mana double Feln, so double primal, double shadow. It's a 4 mana 5/5. Summon Nightfall, and Rindra the Duskblade has lifesteal and overwhelm at night.
Yeah, this card's obviously pushed and insane, and I can't wait to play with this, no matter the format.
Yeah, this is amazing. It's just so good.
Do you think this could so far? Do you think this is the best card in the set?
As far as we've seen, the most obviously good, I think it is.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good way to say that. Yeah, this card's amazing. You should always play it. There's not much else to say, I guess. It's just so
Yeah,
good.
I mean it's pretty self-explanatory card. Sick card though, and it is
Yeah,
an unseen if that is relevant.
yeah. It's also the art. It's really cool. The art,
Yeah.
I should say that the art as a whole in set three seems to be much better than the other two sets.
Yeah, the art has been definitely ramping up, and I do like to point out that these shadow unseen are definitely much different from the Horu unseen that we've seen so far.
For sure. Definitely they feel like different groups. All right, next up we have Agile Deathjaw. It is a rare dinosaur unit. It costs 5 and it has double Xenon influence, double time, double shadow. It's a 3/3. It has ambush at night, and your other dinosaurs have +1/+1.
I think this is playable as far as you have a critical mass of dinosaurs. How many dinosaurs do you think you should have before you should consider playing this?
Uh, a lot. I mean, because you're in Xenon, so you don't have things like hatchlings to sort of get you there. So you need to have.
Well, you can splash for hatchlings.
Yeah, I guess you can splash for hatchlings, but I would want at least 5 or 6.
Yeah, I would say 5, 6 is like the comfort number, and if you can reliably activate nightfall, this is a pretty okay ambush blowout. Though keeping up 5 mana is pretty obvious.
Yeah, I mean, if you do have dinosaurs and you have ways to activate night, then this is obviously a great card. But I don't know that yet. I've seen yet like the support to make this a build around pack one pick one type of
Yeah,
situation.
this the fact that this card has double Shadow Influence really annoys me.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
because
if it was
you could be like base time, but yeah, like you said, the double shadow is a real hindrance.
yeah, like if it was a double time one shadow, I think this card would be much better.
I would agree.
Yeah.
All
Oh
right,
well.
next up, you get an awesome one.
I know you love this card, so I'm gonna let you do this
You
one.
let me do this. All right.
Yeah.
Kuriox, the Insatiable Seeker, is a legendary dragon explorer. Costs 6 power. Has double fire, double time, double primal. It's a 5/5 with flying, and has +2/+2 while you control a relic. And ultimate, when Kuriox hits the enemy player, if you have 5 or more spells in your void, create and draw a Dragon's Eye. This card is ridiculous.
Yeah, for people that don't know, the old Kyriakis, the Dragon's Eye, is a 0 mana Elysian influence card that draws you 3 cards, so it's like a strictly better Ancestor Recall.
Yeah, this card, I'm gonna first pick it every time I see it. I might even like pack four, pick one, first pick it, and try to play it. Like I just love this
Yeah.
card. I think it's a lot of fun. I don't know that it's gonna be great in draft, but we're gonna try.
If the fixing is there, I think this card can be really good.
Yeah, Praxis Stranger and Elijah Stranger just become amazingly good after you have one of these.
Yeah, I mean the fact that like you don't even have to fulfill all the conditions. Like with just fulfilling the relic condition, you already have an insanely above curve card.
Yeah, it's 7/7 flyer for 6 is amazing.
Yeah, even with those steep influence requirements, and if you somehow have the ultimate restriction met, which is pretty unlikely, but it can happen in rare cases. I mean, you just win the game on the spot, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, like most of my draft decks probably average somewhere around like 5 spells, so it's not like you're gonna be turning that on very often at all. But still, yeah, a 7/7 flyer or even just a 5/5 flyer for 6 is pretty solid. Whether or
Yeah,
not
this
it's
is
worth the influence cost is another
yeah.
story.
That's the main matter there. Like I think this is an insanely fun card, and I'm really looking forward to play with it. And as always, very very fun and good artwork.
Yeah, awesome, awesome card. All right, next we have a card that's changed a little bit since it was first spoiled. It is
The family charter. So this card was originally called the Royal Charter. I have no idea why they changed the name. But it is a 1 mana relic, neutral, so no influence requirement. Summon, so when there's about it, you get to scout, you get to look at the top card, you can put it on the bottom if you want, and you can pay 6 and sacrifice it to draw 2 cards.
yeah.
I think this is one of those cards that you're definitely gonna pick up for your Qliox draft deck.
Oh yeah, for sure. It smooths out your draws in the beginning, and then late game it can be a power sink to draw you some cards. It'll be interesting to see how often this is played and how sort of important it is to the format. It is
Yeah,
like
this is definitely one of those cards that I think goes into the diminishing returns category. I think you only want like max one of these, but you're gonna be happy that you have one of those, I think.
yeah, I would agree with that. Definitely, I'd much rather like draw and play it on turn 7 than on play it on turn 1. Just because it until you can pay that 6, it just does nothing in your hand. It doesn't affect the board unless you have cards that care about relics. But yeah, I
Yeah,
think
Scout is definitely not worth one card in your
right.
deck, I think.
So yeah, I think I'll play this a lot, and it'll be interesting to see how good it actually is if in the format. The slower the format is, the better this card is.
Yeah, basically. Alright, those are all the spoilers we have so far for the Dusk Road. And I don't know about you, man, but I'm really excited about this set. This is shaping to be much better than Omens of the Past, in my opinion.
Yeah, so far I'm just very excited about this. The mechanics are much more interesting than the set 2 mechanics, and I'm just real excited for it.
Yeah, this is shaping to be a really good set with all of impactful cards. So very excited to also draft all of these cards.
Yep.
All right, we're gonna go. We're gonna go in a couple of minutes, but before that, we have a couple more things to talk about. We have a tip of the week. So our tip of the week is stop drafting and start hoarding for when set 3 comes out, so you can draft even more when set 3 comes out.
Yeah, that's the only a tip probably worth saying at the moment is just save your gold for a set 3 draft because it's going to be awesome.
Yep, it's really it's exciting, and you should be saving your both your gold and your shift stone if you are a constructed player.
Yeah. On average, how many drafts would you say that you do in a day or week?
Well, lately I haven't drafted much lately of the but I would say I average at least one draft a day, sometimes even more. So I would say about 10 between 10 and 12 drafts per week average.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. So I was just curious. Not relevant to the tip, just a random curiosity. All right, what's up
Yeah.
next on our agenda here?
Before we go for the week, we have a little something about the outside world where we talk. We just mentioned some interesting stuff outside the world of Eternal. So for me, I recommend to everyone that is slightly interested in Magic the Gathering. Uh, yeah, so people in Magic the Gathering are releasing a new unset. So the unsets are kind of joke sets, kind of parody sets where Magic the Gathering kind of shows that it can laugh at itself. And from the spoils that have been shown, I think the the set looks out like an absolute blaster draft. There's gonna be a lot of silliness, a lot of cool stuff on the table, and you know if there is a local game store around you and you can afford to draft the set, I would definitely recommend to draft it because I think it's gonna be a blast.
Yeah, I would agree that I was more excited about the unstable spoilers than I have about most recent Magic spoilers. So it looks really cool. Like you said, it looks like a lot of fun to draft, and they're doing interesting things that could be done in regular Magic as well. So
Yeah,
it's gonna be
definitely.
interesting to see. My thing for this week is I like to read sci-fi, and there's a new author I've been reading. I'm not gonna even attempt to say. Well, I guess I will attempt to say her name because not everybody will be able to watch the video. But Nanede Okorafor, and she's a sci-fi author. And the most recent book of hers I've read is called Binti. It's about a girl from Africa, but it's complete with sci-fi themes, and she ends up leaving Earth eventually, and yada yada. But it's anyway, she's a fantastic author, and if you haven't checked her out, you should.
Yeah, this definitely sounds interesting. Definitely gonna check out that was a very interesting cover right there. Definitely catches the eye. Yeah, that's all we have for this week. Hope you enjoyed our program, and we hope to see you next week.
Yep, and if you have any suggestions or comments or critiques, be sure to leave them in the comments. So thanks a lot, everybody.
See you next time.